Hi, Kearney here at Powell Arts, and I'm with the wonderful Johanne Lamarche, and one of her two pieces that will be in our It Is Written show, which will run from now through October 29th with a special preview during the Collingswood Arts and Crafts Festival on August 19th and 20th.
That was a mouthful.
I know, right? Johanne, could you introduce us to your piece?
Yes, I'm happy to do so. Thank you for accepting a politically charged piece in the show, Caroline. It's not the kind of art I normally create, but this issue really energized me and got me thinking about how I could use art.
It's energizing a lot of us.
It certainly is.
Just ask Ohio and Kansas and Tennessee, everywhere.
Pretty much the whole country.
Yeah.
So this is called Dissent, and it's a piece that I thought about for months before I actually plunged into actually making it. Usually I'm a very spontaneous artist.
Yeah, you work a lot from intuition and
And this was the complete reverse process. So as the Supreme Court was debating the Dobbs decision, I felt that Roe v. Wade was very threatened. And I felt very helpless. And I thought, what can I do with art to maybe address my feelings of, not being able to do anything about the situation. Of course, the decision came through. I still didn't have my art created. And I thought, okay, I need to pivot. Now I need to actually see what we can do about the situation that has befallen women in America and families in general. So I thought that I needed to get some kind of female form to represent this is a female issue. And so I got a styrofoam form. I decided that I would paint it black to basically have it look like a Supreme Court justice's gown. And so it was sort of entrapping a woman's future and tying that with the decisions of the Supreme Court. Of course, I always admired Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I did mourn the loss of her. She was an idol for me, and she was a champion of women's rights. But I was also angry that she had not given up her seat on the Supreme Court when she could have been replaced with another justice that had similar values and would be fighting to continue her legacy.
Yeah, because it only came out afterwards that she had the opportunity. I love her legacy, but at the same time, there is something about this was always an issue that was going to be more capricious than people thought, and she was such a measured person and not having the foresight, it left a lot of us in alert.
Absolutely. So I did design the piece because she's easily recognizable. She has her own meme. She became sort of a rock star
as
the Supreme Court
symbol
and
of her.
The collar is totally identifiable as Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
So I went looking, I don't crochet, so I went looking for a hand crocheted collar, and I found one on Etsy. The artist was Alexei Rulov, and the parcel arrived to me a few weeks later, and it was postmarked Ukraine. I could not believe it. I just sobbed to think that somebody in Ukraine was continuing to hope about the world, was continuing to work in the midst of a war, and had managed to ship me this collar, this beautiful handiwork, all the way to America in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
It brought gravitas to my project, and it also brought hope to me at a time where I didn't think there would be a lot of hope for women and the loss of all our rights as far as reproduction and health.
Because we think of hope, I think, as an abstract ideal, and I was actually talking about, there's another artist who has a branding project called the Hope Symbol, which she wants to use in tandem with the peace symbol. And one of the things we talked about, I think is really relevant here, is that we think of hope as a passive thing, but the perseverance aspect of hope is a principle that needs to be persevered, because without perseverance there is no hope. And so I love that you tie those two things together, because it's the marriage between this idea that this person is persevering and it gives hope for Ukraine, just like we have hope that we can change what's happening with
And
our
that-
bodily autonomy.
That's absolutely correct, and that is exactly the genesis of the piece going forward. After the decision was handed down, I said, how can women and their families continue with some hope going forward after losing all of our rights?
Yeah.
From the Supreme Court level. So I I wish I had been the author of this slogan, but I happened to come across the row, row, row your vote slogan
Yeah.
on a t-shirt of all places. And it stuck with me. It was brilliant, it was clever, it was something that would get in your head.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's it, I have got to put that in my work somehow. So I printed it by organizing the text on my printer,
Mhm.
and I basically decided that I would organize the slogan vertically
Mhm.
so that the word vote would end up just above my form's imaginary reproductive organ
Yeah.
location. So basically, I just collaged the printer paper onto the styrofoam form,
Mhm.
and I basically used a marker to emphasize the colors as well.
Because of freedom, everybody associates the United States with freedom, and part of that is the red, white, and blue.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's very Americana with the flag in the back, also Americana, but it's all about.
Which is funny because you're Canadian.
I'm Canadian, but I'm also a voting American.
right.
So I have a say. So originally I wanted to create some kind of cage to denote that women were trapped
Mhm.
by this decision. And so I had deconstructed a whole bunch of hangers,
Yeah.
and I had
Which is
used
the
my
perfect symbol.
orthodontic skills to create barbed wire connections.
Yeah.
And I created sort of a web
Mhm.
of metal around my statue, but it would not stick. And you can see a little damage here where I tried to get the,
But that's actually
The metal.
funny because this is where our reproductive organs start.
That's
And
right.
And coat hanger is perfect because coat hanger abortion.
So I had to go to Plan B. I could not use that.
Which is,
And I looked at all the hanger hooks that were lying on my work table after using all the deconstructed hangers, and I said, duh, there's actually a V here.
Yeah.
Where the hook is. So I decided I was going to superimpose the V over the vote V to emphasize the
which
voting.
is perfect.
And then I let the hanger drop into even more of a primary position of where reproductive organs would find themselves. Painted that red, and that was basically a very visual reminder that we could not go back to some of the barbaric ways that women had had to address their reproductive issues in the past. We could not go back to the dark
Well, there's
ages.
something that, two of the things that I really, there's a lot that I like about this piece, but one of the things, so this is called It Is Written, and obviously this incorporates words, but it also, It Is Written it recalls a classical sense of things. And even in the imagery that you've used to shape this, it recalls a classic sculpture from like the Grecian ages and
Yes.
things like that, which is, whether we want to talk about it or not, it is what our views on femininity and women's rights are based on, and so I like that juxtaposition, it makes it
Yes.
very strong.
And I actually made sure that I selected a bodice that was basically a vision of all women.
Yeah.
It was anonymous,
Yeah,
but it was unmistakable that this was a female form.
yeah,
But it was very generic in that we could all associate. You look at this, you know it's a woman.
Yeah.
And it's every woman.
and one of the other things that I like about this piece and its thoughtfulness and the way that you've incorporated the hanger and lots of a symbol of a strong woman and things like that is that we forget that part of the reason that women even have the successes they do now is because women used to die in childbirth all the time. And without talking about this and revisiting this and messaging on this and making other people think of this, that all goes away. So I think people think, well, what's the big deal about it? But it is a big deal, and to me, that's one of the things the reason we accepted the piece is because my mama, Carol, who's not here right now, always says, there's a difference between something that has a message and something that is polemic. And this is something that is thought-provoking, that would make people have conversations, that is it's based in law, it's based in codes and all of those things, and so.
There's all the other writing that this encompasses that is not, spelled in front of us
Yeah.
with the piece, but it's like, something written at the Supreme Court, a document
Yeah.
becomes law, and it basically stops all of the rights for reproductive
Yeah.
health going forward to women. There's been so many nightmare stories in the first year post-Roe
Yeah.
in America that have nothing to do with the termination of life, but, risks to the woman's health.
Yeah.
So this is a bigger issue. It's about encompassing all of the reproductive freedoms and health that women are now, suffering restrictions on.
Yeah, we wanted this show to be about all the forms of ways we use words in conversation and idea, in titles and blurs, in stories, in actual writing and things like that. And so this is a perfect piece. It's a thoughtful piece. It's one of 2 works that you have in the show, and we really hope that everybody will come see it.
Thank you, but can I finish
Yeah.
talking about, so I needed to find a way to actually display the bodice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried different things, like a block, a sculptural base, and I finally settled on a garden urn. It's a metal garden urn, and I fastened a cardboard base that I painted to hold the sculpture. But if you actually turn it and you look at this sculpture sideways, it actually looks like she's wearing an old-fashioned
It does.
bustle.
Yep.
And that is another nod to, we cannot let women go backwards
Yeah.
in society with restrictions that are going to put their health at risk. We can't go back to dark ages.
Well, and even
it
the way
looks
that
like
this tapers down, the way
yeah,
that
it really
the way-
looks like she's wearing a dress.
And then the women
And I was
would
just
like
so-
walk like this.
I was so pleased when I actually tried it on this garden urn that was just one of my own garden urns. And to finish it, I thought the hanging part of the flag in the back was a good punctuation mark. It makes everything tie together. It really makes the front part of the sculpture stand out. But it also denotes that this is an American issue that affects every American. It's not just a female issue or
It's
an
everyone.
issue depending on your various political beliefs.
Yeah.
It's an issue that affects every family in this country.
Well, and also red and white are historically the symbols of medicine. We think of it as barbers now.
That's right.
But red and white was originally about medical care.
Right.
Yep.
And my hope, actually, when I pivoted to, the post-Roe world, was to actually give people all across our country hope.
Yeah.
And hope that there was still things that we could do. We could still vote down ballot and vote for candidates that are going to believe in protecting women's reproductive
And it
rights
turns out that
at the state level, at the local level. And the passionate voters of Ohio just this week taught us one playbook on how to go forward in a post-Roe world. And so this is the ambition of this piece is to tell you, you have a voice, you can still make a difference, show up at the polls, go and vote, and row your vote forward.
And that's exactly what people are doing.
That is what people are doing. So that was the hope that I had by finishing this piece. I am not a politically,
You were a thoughtful,
an
analytic
type of person, so
Yes.
I'm a little uncomfortable with this piece of work, but I appreciate an opportunity to talk about what went behind the creation of it and what the hope for it
Because
would
you
be.
are a very thoughtful artist, like you're very analytical, you're thoughtful, you know the context of what you're doing, and one of the things that's been nice while we're working with you is you are an artist who's constantly challenging yourself to create in ways that you find satisfying and that convey your message effectively.
Yes,
And this is just another great example of that. So
thank you.
we're so glad to have you, Johanne.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
And hopefully everybody will come see this and we'll have a great show. So
Great, thank
come
you
see
so
it.
much.
Thank you so much.